what's the very idea of behind this, that we have this Women in Games thing here in Satakunta, and I think this is pretty awesome. So so yeah. But she's going to talk a little bit about from the different point of view, so kind of being an outsider because of disability. So please welcome Licia. So again, you can take drinks and blah blah blah. Drinks and blah 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 from there, as we have this technical situation here.
I highly recommend the blah blah blah. It's great here. So, as Kati said, my name is Licia Prehn, and I'm sorry I don't have a voice right now. I was at a 90s festival last weekend, and I'm still about 75% gone. So, I'm going to talk a little bit today about a slightly different perspective than what the two women before me spoke of. It's quite funny that Anna-Kaisa talked about being an outsider, because after that speech, god damn, do I feel like one right now. So, this first slide was just a little bit about who I am. I think most of you know me, but some of you don't. So, I was born in 1990 in Staten Island, New York, which is one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. We're most known for our garbage dump and the Wu-Tang Clan. So that's 2 things we got going for us, I guess. And I grew up booking and being involved with punk rock bands and touring and doing stuff with music, which my mom, who's here today, actually probably wasn't thrilled with as a thing I chose to do, but you know, what can you say? And so I moved to Finland when I was 20 for a boy, because I'm an idiot, and I studied Finnish. And I did some radio work with the Multicultural Association here in Pori for a little while. And the thing about me is that I always played games as a kid. I had a Nintendo 8-bit, and my cousin had a Sega Genesis, and then for my first communion, my aunts and uncles and family got together and got me a Nintendo 64, and I played that for hours a day, every day. I grew up watching my brother, who's 10 years older than me, play Doom and Wolfenstein, and I was always super, super fascinated with games and wanted to do nothing more in my free time, really, than listen to music and play games. That's how I spent, I would say, the majority of my childhood. And the thing that, order here. I met my future boss, who's here today also, hi Temu, at the Irish pub here in Pori in 2015, or 2013, sorry, and I started working for him at the end of 2015. And the sort of culmination of all of this information is that I was born with something called autosomal congenital cataracts, which in less fancy terms means I am blind as a bat. So I have 2% of what you would consider to be normal vision, and because of this, it's always been a bit of a challenge for me to really be involved with playing games, but it was something I always loved to do, so because I loved to do it, I always found a way to make it work. And as a kid, my cousins who had, like I said, the Sega and who had PlayStation, and as we got older had GameCube and all these consoles, I was always the last one that was allowed to play. A, because I was a girl and it was always the boys' turn, but B, because I had to sit so close to the television that no one else could play with me. But I didn't even mind that after a point, because I was like, fine, do your thing, I'll play after as long as I get to play. So, a little bit about Nopia, where I work now. We specialize in character animation. Character is our backbone, and we really sort of believe in it because for us it's the most fun thing to do. We are characters, we love characters, it's how we roll. But we also do VFX, regular other animations, AR, VR, and games. And we put out Rescue Busters earlier in this year, which is our first game, which felt crazy and awesome and terrifying, but mostly awesome. And we're a team of between 6 and 12 depending on the project, but we're 6 like core people normally. I'm a producer, and what did I say? Oh yeah, we're the only animation studio in Pori, which means we're the best animation studio in Pori, and we're gonna take that with us to our grave. So, I'm going to talk a little bit now about some of the disadvantages or the struggles that I have with my disability in this industry, because always, when I tell people, yeah, I work for an animation studio, I watch their faces as best I can. They're like, oh. It always sort of hits them after a point that, okay, this person can't see, but somehow they do that kind of work. And it is a struggle, and it is something you sort of have to adapt to, like I said. But as I stated before about playing games as a kid, when you have a passion for something, it doesn't really matter what's, for lack of a better phrase, wrong with you. You make that work. And that's sort of how I've lived for the past 26 years and how I plan on keeping on living. But I would say the biggest struggles that I would have are the fact that nothing is in large print, and I mean nothing. And a lot of programs go absolutely apeshit if you try and mess with the visual settings. And there are screen magnifiers and there are all these things that you can do to try to make things work better. I realize I put your hand there. There are things that try to sort of make it work better for the visually impaired. All kinds of software that they've developed. Very, very expensive, bulky software. But a lot of it doesn't really replace squinting, and a lot of it doesn't work so well. And this isn't really something developers take into consideration when creating really nice UI. It might be great for all of you, but there's a subsect of us, albeit very small, that can't actually use it. So we sit back and think, wow, that's beautiful and intuitive and smart, but fucking impossible. And then sighted people often forget us. That sort of leads into what I said. You know, there's a lot of really great games out there for mobile or for console or for PC that would, you know, ultimately be really fun and are really fun. Like, we played the new Doom recently at work, because that's what we do at work, because we're a real workplace. And it was amazing and beautiful, but I was sitting there thinking, like, wow, I would love nothing more than to sit down and play with this, but I can't, because it's just too dark and too... I don't even know how to say it. It's too nice. Everything is too nice. I have a Nintendo 64 still at home, and I just got Pokemon Snap for it, actually, last week, so that's how I've been spending my free time since I got back from the festival. And it's just like, those older games, they were low poly, they were, to you all, ugly. And I know I had a friend over back when I first got my new N64 back in the fall. I was playing Super Mario 64 with him, and he was like, wow, this is ugly, it's hard to look at, my eyes. But I was just thinking, like, for me, this is beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, because I don't have to think too hard. It's blocky and big and easy. And oftentimes, especially the artistic side of things, people want to make beautiful things, and I understand that completely. You don't want to put out crap, or what's now modern day crap. But there are some of us out there who sort of need things to be like that. We need it big and ugly and simple. And I know there's a whole subgenre now of indie 8-bit games and stuff, and I've been dying to get into that and sort of dive down the rabbit hole, but I just haven't had the time. But awkward conversations. These are my favorite. There's all kinds of people who want to ask things, and they do, and I'm fine with that. I'm always fine with people asking questions, but it does get a little bit frustrating, I would say, to answer the same things over and over and over. And sometimes I find myself accidentally being sassy. You know, so my favorite is always like, oh, but if you're blind, how do you play video games? To which I reply very carefully, because I don't know how else to answer that question. But there's a lot of times that, you know, you find yourself often having to explain things, like I said, a lot. And you find yourself sort of always having to explain how you live your life. And it's almost as if when you're, especially at a game conference or something like that, where you meet someone really interesting and you want to talk about something completely different, but then you have to spend 15 minutes explaining to somebody how you work and how you live. And then by the time that 15 minutes is over, they might have to run somewhere. They might have something to do. And then when you get to talk about the thing you actually wanted to talk to that person about, you're left like, okay, great, I just explained to that guy my daily life. Great, now he knows that. Fantastic. So you waste a lot of time. And sometimes feeling as though you're not taken seriously is a problem that I have quite often in all aspects of life, not just work. But when you're a kind of person who is high functioning, as I am, and who tries really hard not to ask people for help, and who tries almost to a fault to be independent and not make anyone feel uncomfortable, people get so used to that. They get so used to you not needing anything. That, oh, Felicia's got it, she's fine. I mean, she knows her way around, she does this, she does that. When I need help sometimes, even for things that would seem little and seem like nothing, sometimes people don't know how to handle it. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault that they don't know how to deal with the brave, strong person not knowing how to handle a situation. It's not their fault, but it's a situation that I think many disabled people, especially those of us who are high functioning, have to deal with regularly, because it comes out of left field seemingly. It's not, but it's a bit of a struggle. And like I said, it's all on us. It's not on the people around us, really, because they're used to us being a certain way. So the good news, I don't want to be totally negative here. The good news is that most people that I've met in this industry since I got involved have been absolutely fantastic and have been more than accommodating, more than helpful. I'm especially talking right now about Jerry and Natasha. They've been absolute angels and Tapio too, in helping and being understanding and trying to do what they can. Because when they see that I am struggling, you know, they try to help, and it means the world to me. It really does, because so far I haven't met many other people with visual impairments in this industry. I've met people in wheelchairs, I've met people with various mental illnesses, but I haven't met any other blind people. So I feel sometimes a bit like an island, but I never feel too alone in that sense, because I know I always have people that I can fall back on and that care. And yeah, support, like I said, it's never far away. It's never far away. Even if people can't completely relate to things I'm going through, they at least try to, and they always try to lend an ear. And that's one thing I love about the game industry in Finland, and especially Women in Games, the Facebook group, which we talked about earlier, is that everyone is there to support each other. And you know, it's more than gender. It's not just gender. It's just it's really a network of supportive people. And I feel like through that group, I've met so many people who are at further stages in their career than I am, who, while they might not be disabled, still have advice to give and a shoulder to lean on, and you know, moral support, no matter what I'm going through, and no matter how stupid the problem I might be having might be, they're always there. So that's Finland really. Finnish people, they're hard on themselves a lot, but this is a culture that really emphasizes teamwork and togetherness, and I can't value that enough as someone who's different. So my hopes for the future, at least for me, is that I want to do more cool stuff. So leave that up to interpretation, I guess. No. I want to do more with Nokia. I want to get more hands-on with the actual development side of games. I'm trying to learn a bit of Unity. I want to really sort of get my hands dirty and really dive in, because it's fun to be a producer and handle paperwork and do all that bureaucratic stuff. I actually really do enjoy it. But I'm a creative person at the end of the day, and I want to be able to let my creativity shine and let my creativity sort of guide me into some kind of direction. I want to help companies as well. I talked with Natasha a couple weeks ago. I would really like to sort of set up some kind of system where I could help, especially mobile developers. Speech that I got to see at Pocket Games Connect in Helsinki last year by a person whose name I don't remember, from an organization I don't remember, who talked about the demographic of visually impaired mobile gamers, and most of them were elderly people, but that's still a demographic that people don't often think about. So one thing I would like to do if I ever find the time is to set up some kind of organization, or even if it's just a one-woman organization, where I talk with these small developers and try to sort of get them to think about, you know, simple things like, how does your game work in the glare? How does your game work if you have difficulty differentiating between lines? How does your game work if you have color issues? So I'd really like to try to be the voice, I guess, for other disabled gamers, because if you go on YouTube, there are a lot of us, but a lot of them are quite shy, and as most of you guys know, that is one thing I am. So, and I'd like to help Nokia grow, because I have a lot of faith in our team and our boss and what we're capable of, and I'm with them until the end. Sorry, Tim. So I'd really like to help Nokia more and become the huge thing that I think in my heart that we are capable of being. And I would like to try to sort of break down the misunderstanding that a lot of people have about what it's like to live blind/disabled, because a lot of times on my YouTube videos I get comments from people that say like, oh, my mom was going blind, she just found out she's got this problem, she found your video and now she's not scared anymore. And for me, that's probably the biggest compliment I can get ever, really, because it means that I was able to show someone that living this way isn't scary, and it isn't. I can understand for sighted people what it might seem like. You might look at me and think, oh my god, you can't drive a car, you have to use your phone like that, you're constantly relying on people. I mean, yes, and kind of, but it's not scary, it's the only life I have. And if you ever are in this position as well, where you can't see for some reason, then I would hope that you would take my you'd sort of take my lead on this one, and you would also try to live in the way that you want to, because you are going to get nothing done if you just wallow in self-pity about how you can't see. You know, I could easily be still living in the States in my mom's house, doing nothing, and just eating Hot Pockets and watching Ren and Stimpy, but like, I mean, that sounds great, actually, what am I saying? Thank you.
Ooh, thanks so much, Felicia. Do you have questions, comments? Anything?
Have you ever run into any mods? I can think of a bunch of examples of games that are visually unclear, like for sighted persons. And just have you run into any sort of mods or game modes that sort of clarify things, or sort of do like color coding of things or whatever? I don't really have a very clear idea of what I'm saying.
I think I know what you're trying to ask me. You're trying to ask me, have I found a way, like a workaround, whether it be through mods or software that would allow
other people, you know, produced something for this need?
Well, I tried to find for the 3DS because I really wanted to play Pokemon Sun. And I had my Japanese friend Google in Japanese about what kind of workarounds Japanese blind people have figured out for the 3DS, and there was absolutely nothing. There was one sort of magnifier thing that sort of helps, but the reviews were quite mixed. And for me, it's especially hard to really know if something like that would work without actually trying it. And for that reason, as I mentioned before, I tend to sort of stick to N64 style graphics and before, because it's hard. No one really thinks of us in the mod community. I'm sure that if I threw my weight around on Reddit a bit, I could try to get some attention. If I found a game that I really wanted to play, I could sort of whine and complain enough until someone made something that, you know, I could use. But I don't necessarily know if I'm comfortable being that person, mostly because I haven't yet found a newer game that has sort of spoke to me and said, like, I want you to play me. So I tried Dark Souls once a long time ago, and I found that to be too difficult, and I feel like if I went online knowing that community and said, hello, this game is hard, please help me, it wouldn't end well. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I just had a comment actually that there is one company now forming in Turku focusing only on this type of games, and I was planning to actually just get involved with that. So
please do.
Yes. So there is hope. It actually is happening. Yes.
I'm not the only one.
Yes.
I'd also like to bring attention, kind of especially those groups of different disability issues in games. So Pori, I don't know if Ian Hamilton was the one that was talking in that comment, Gamer Connects, but he's been very active, for instance, in global games to provide help for the jammers to actually pay attention to different kinds of disabilities, visual impairments, or color blindness, or hearing impairment, or any kind of things. And I think that that is also kind of coming to mainstream. So for the bigger developers, they understand it's a demographic of the users that you would need to provide some kind of help or a mod or mode for the others to also play. So I think that that's a very important thing to also voice out, so that there are actual living examples of people that have difficulties to look at the games in the way that we others might look at. So that the developers or budding developers would have that in their minds, that maybe that's one thing to also consider. Not only like language, like a localization versions or something like that, but also even to be more considerate in such design decisions that it's not bad for the others, but it could be helping to kind of broaden the player base. So there is hopefully more info on that too, because it's mostly about not knowing what to do.
In a lot of cases, and this is going to sound funny, in a lot of cases it's as simple as changing the font color. And I know that sounds like, what? But it's true.
Yeah.
It's as simple as changing the font color a little bit and making the font maybe 2 points bigger, and it makes a world of difference. So it doesn't have to be a lot of work. It really doesn't. But if you could actually put me in contact with any of those people, that would be really awesome, because I would love to meet them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Since
Who are you?
Yeah. Since you work at the best animation studio in Pori, could you mention some other specific things that, if you had an animator mod the visuals of, say, Dark Souls, like what exactly would you like to change in the visuals? And also, the second part of the question is, why don't you just get good, casual?
I would like to get good, but it's not as easy as you make it seem like Mr. I'm gonna speed run the game in 45 minutes, look at me, I'm Jerry. I would say making things brighter would be really useful, because of course the name Dark Souls implies that it's quite a dark thing, and I found what the times I've watched it through with my ex that it was quite visually dark, and I think that's a lot of the problem now for me, is that it's everything is very dark and everything is very detailed. So I'm never really sure what I can't pay attention to too many things at once. I have to focus. I need a small area that I can focus on. And in these big games where everything is so dark and detailed and big, it's very easy for a blind person to sort of get lost in what they're supposed to be sort of focusing on. You know, in the Mario games, for example, they were for 64, it was a good example, because they only really detailed the things that were important. So it was really easy to tell what was background and what wasn't, and what wasn't necessary and what was for me. And now when I find myself into like a big open world game, I never really know kind of what I'm supposed to be looking at, because I can't. I don't really know how you guys see it, but I assume that when you guys look at a screen like that, you're able to sort of process everything, while I have to sort of process bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. So I don't really have. I wish I had an idea, but all I can say is make things brighter and make the important things more detailed and the less important things less detailed. Just make things like as if a small child was looking at it, not playing it, but looking at it. Maybe that's the best idea I can kind of offer forward.
Don't you worry, girl. There's gonna be chip in everyone's head soon, so everybody can see the same.
I appreciate your optimism, Tatya. Thank you, everyone.
And again, you can